LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers are heading towards a breakup. This offseason, LeBron opted into his player option, remaining with LA for year 23. But as number 23 enters year 23, Rich Paul, agent and good friend of LeBron's, put out a statement that felt off. Around that same time, rumors began that LA is transitioning to Luka as their franchise player, which makes sense given both stars' ages, as one likely has 2 to 3 years at most, and the other a decade plus. This has started the rumor mill as to where LeBron will land post-Lakers. I have looked around the league at team situations, salary caps, LeBron's legacy, and what feels like a LeBron move to make, and came to the conclusion of 6 situations for LeBron moving forward beyond his time in LA that makes sense. Before we begin, I want to mention that all these situations are looking at LeBron and LA moving on from each other at next season's trade deadline at the earliest. I believe that if LeBron were to be traded this offseason, a formal request would have already been announced for this offseason. This is looking at trade scenarios at the deadline or in the 2026 offseason trades and free agents. With that being said, let's get into the list. At number 6, I have the Miami Heat. This is the first team where LeBron James won a championship. Obviously, it was a big deal when he went there the first time down in Miami. A full circle moment back to South Beach where he has a lot of his legacy tied to. It's also just a good retirement city for millionaires and old people alike. So I could see LeBron wanting that to be where his permanent home is afterward. It's still a team that can compete if they do not overpay in a trade, and they are in the situation where they shed some salary cap next offseason to just flat out sign him. I think with most of these scenarios, if LeBron is to sign somewhere, it's going to be for less than he's making right now. Obviously, he's a great player, but he's in his 40s, and you never know what you're going to get out of a player in his 40s. I don't think any team's going to give him even half of what he's making this year, and it's not even because of his talent. I think it's just because of his age and all the question marks that come with that. Now, Miami's a good situation. I think it makes sense for both sides, but I think that there are better situations out there for LeBron to compete. Moving on to number 5, I have the San Antonio Spurs. You cannot tell me that this young core couldn't compete with LeBron James. He gets to play with one of the greatest prospects and what is potentially the greatest player of this next generation in Victor Wembanyama. This team could trade players and picks and still have a very solid core. De'Aaron Fox is a player that's been linked as a potential trade piece if something like this were to happen. LeBron would get the opportunity to play for another historical franchise in the NBA, and this would be a big swing for Greg Popovich in his new role as only a GM. Obviously, Greg Popovich has been the GM there for a long time, but it has not just been his singular role in over 20 plus years. I think this could make sense for LeBron as well. That's a team that is one piece away from competing. LeBron and Wemby could make some noise. I don't know if that's necessarily a team that could beat some of the heavy hitters in the West, but that is no doubt a contender immediately if that is to happen. Now, number 4, I do not have a team for. It's just wherever Bryce James ends up getting drafted. Now, this is assuming Bryce James is one and done and has the talent to do so. It's also assuming that LeBron sees playing with both of his sons as a core part of his legacy. Now, he talked about wanting to play with Bronny James for so long. However, he never really mentioned Bryce James. I don't think anybody really would think that they'd be able to play that deep in their 40s. But with how important it was for LeBron to play with Bronny and how much it seemed to be like a legacy piece for him, I could also see that being a legacy piece for him to play with Bryce. And he would be the first player not only to play with his sons, but both of his sons. And honestly, it would be really cool, even if it's in like Utah. I think it's the one thing that really makes sense for him to continue playing and not be ring chasing. Again, Bryce James could be on a contender if he's a late first round or a late second round pick. He also could be on a pretty bad team, but I could see LeBron as a free agent just going there to retire with his other son and play with both of his sons. Again, there's no specific team that makes the most sense here. I think this is something that, depending on where Bryce gets drafted, it makes more sense versus other situations it makes less sense. But if it's very important to him to play with both of his sons, I think this is a very viable option. Moving on to number 3, this team has already been attached to rumors all offseason long, and it's the Dallas Mavericks. Let's just completely reverse the rosters of the Lakers and the Mavericks and send LeBron to Dallas. They'd have AD and LeBron, a team that's already won a championship together, and then add a young Cooper Flag onto that team. That is a surefire contender, probably a top 2 seed, and threatening OKC is probably the favorite out west. It would be absolutely hilarious to see Luka as a Laker and then the old Lakers core in Dallas. Like I mentioned before, there's a ton of rumors that are already connecting the two sides. I don't know if it's truly going to happen or just kind of what I'm also thinking, with fans just loving the idea of how hilarious and ridiculous this would be. But by the numbers, it's reasonable both by trade at the trade deadline and a signing in next offseason. So there are multiple paths for this to happen, which honestly makes it somewhat realistic, as funny as it is. Number 2 is just retirement. Now, I know what you're thinking. I don't think anybody is ready to see LeBron retire. I have never seen an NBA that does not have LeBron James in it. However, he is post 40. This would have him playing out the whole year as a Laker, retiring at the end of the season. Again, this is something that we more than likely would already have an announcement of it happening. However, his time has to be soon. He would go out as an all-star, no doubt, and not an all-star in terms of the washed-up superstar that we give a vote to respect him. No, he is probably still a top 20 player in the NBA at the end of next year. So he will be guaranteed an all-star, and a very good all-star. He will avoid the washed superstar years, and his legacy would stay untarnished without years where it just looks like he's ring chasing. If he ends his career in LA, it's also a good place for him as a business manager to start his career post basketball. Number 1, I think this makes the most sense. I think a lot of people are going to agree with me. The Cleveland Cavaliers. This team is a championship contender. They were just the number 1 seed. It's his hometown team. There isn't a better storybook ending. Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, LeBron James sounds like a very good big 3 in this era. That's probably the favorite going into the 2027 season if he is to sign there. The only holdup on this is there is no reasonable way for them to sign him to any competitive contract. They are very deep in the second apron, and they're only going to be deeper heading into the 2026 offseason. He would have to sign for a vet minimum. I don't see LeBron James ever being a vet minimum guy, regardless of the storybook ending. However, there are contracts they can shed where they maybe can get a sign and trade to work. I'm not an absolute salary cap genius, but looking at the storybook ending and just the way his career would pan out, it would be awesome to see him end up in Cleveland. And there's got to be a way to make it work. There are some very smart people in these NBA front offices that if Cleveland really wants to make a push for him, they can probably figure it out. Regardless of what happens in the 2025-2026 season and in 2026 and beyond, LeBron James is no doubt one of the best basketball players that has ever graced the court. He is the best player that I've seen play live in my lifetime, no doubt about it. And regardless of what he chooses, he is going to have an immediate impact on that team, and he will have a great legacy wherever he goes. It was weird to see LeBron in a uniform outside of Miami right away. It was weird to see LeBron in a uniform outside of Cleveland right away. It's going to be weird to see him in a uniform outside of the Los Angeles Lakers once it officially happens. But I'm very excited to see where he is playing very soon. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Does LeBron retire? Does LeBron find a new home? Does he stay in LA and is Luka's second option into his retirement years? Let me know down below what you think. And other than that, thanks for watching, and I'm out. Peace.